Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats postgame. I'm your host, Mike Luke, joined by the boss, Saul Bookman, the precocious Ben White. I am merely Mike Luke. We have got a lot to get to this show. First and foremost, fellas, survive in advance. Survive in advance. We'll get back to all the nitpick, but at the end of the day, we're going to the Sweet 16 in Los Angeles, Saul Bookman.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, that was a phenomenal effort right there. I know there's probably some things that we can always nitpick about, but I mean, listen, this is March. That's how these games are going to go. If you think you're going to just blow out a team by 40, you got another thing coming. You have to play at a super elite level, and we just don't see teams do that anymore with the parity in college. So this is a phenomenal. I think it was a dominant win.
Right. And Ben, you got to give Tommy Lloyd a lot of credit here. He made changes when he needed to make changes. Jaden Bradley was the player of the game. He was absolutely fantastic. He changed everything. And he even pulled out Oumar Ballo at times when Oumar Ballo wasn't able. Some coaches won't do that. You got to give Tommy Lloyd a lot of credit there.
And that's what this team does best, right? Is when they've played their best this season, they've been able to adjust on the fly. I think Ballo was having a tough game, right? Because he was getting killed in the pick and roll, and Tommy Lloyd did make that adjustment to your point, but I just thought from the get-go they were locked in, Mike. I mean, defensively, Dayton was trying to switch everything and make things challenging for Arizona, but at the same time, conversely, Arizona made things really tough for them, and I don't think they could play the style of basketball they wanted to play and what they're used to playing, hitting all those threes traditionally. So Arizona was locked in. I mean, there were some woes there at the end of the first half and early in the second half where they didn't score for 4 minutes, but consistency and bench play is really why we're here at this point.
Yeah, Saul got to really hit on the bench play here. The great teams generally, you look back in 97, you had Jason Terry. Obviously, 2001, you had a Luke Walton coming off the bench. Arizona's got game changers that come off the bench. I mean, you got two, as Charles Barkley likes to say, you got two nuclear weapons in Jaden Bradley and KJ Lewis, and they showed that both. There's not a lot of teams in the country that can bring two guys like that off the bench.
1,000,000%. Hey, listen, Jaden Bradley, man, I just fucking love that kid, man. He's a dog. When he comes in, there's not another player on the team. There's no other person on the team where I feel very comfortable with the ball in their hands than Jaden Bradley. He's not erratic. He doesn't get sped up. He makes the right decision. And listen, guys, I the whole time when we jumped up 17 and then we blew the lead down to 7 at halftime, obviously we all have PTSD of the Illinois game and stuff like that, right? But during that run that Illinois had, I always felt like if we could just get one bucket, we would win this game. Just kind of stem the tide a little bit. Jaden Bradley, when we're up by 9 and he drives it to the basket and hits that spin move with about 3 minutes and 30 seconds left, and he hits that bucket, to me, that kind of calmed everybody down like, hey, we're good. And big-time players make big-time plays like that. And when Boswell doesn't have it, and you could tell he didn't have it early on, Jaden Bradley is a phenomenal second option.
And what's remarkable about him, and we've been talking about this all season, Ben, his hands, the way that he gets his hands on, this sounds terrible, the way that he gets hands on balls, the way that he is able to, slap down on it's just the way that he's able to get involved in intricate plays.
The way he's able to deflect passes and get his hands into the nook and crannies here and there.
Oh, that's why you're the boss, and that's why I am not. That is the perfect way of putting it. But Ben, the way that he can do it, it's just remarkable. He has an uncanny ability, and that's why how many times on a 2-on-1 fast break this season where it looked like a team was going to give up a dunk, and then Jaden deflects the ball away. Yeah. It's remarkable. He's got a real, amongst many qualities, and like Saul said, he's got a very calming influence, but man, defensively, he's something else.
Yeah. I mean, he had 4 steals today? And I think that one at the end, to your point, where he just grabbed it literally out of Holmes's hand. I mean, I've never seen that. A guy just putting one hand out, especially at the guard spot, and just completely taking the ball away. But no, he's fantastic. And I think defensively, I mean, it's no secret, you and Muehlbach were talking about this after the Long Beach State game, where not many teams in the country, where you're top 10 in both offense and defense when it comes to Ken Pom and some of these other rankings. And, I think that bench and Bradley is a big reason because of that, because I think he sets the tone. And obviously Boswell had a pretty bad game. I mean, from the get-go, he was the guy who kind of set that energy for them. And offensively, I'm tired of hearing about, and I know you are, Mike, at this point. I'm tired of hearing about how, maybe Bradley can't score. Maybe there's some limitations there. I mean, he looked okay to me when he was shooting the ball today too as well, Mike.
Yeah, Jason Shear, I'm talking about you. Bradley can score. And honestly, Saul, like you just look at this team, and we talked about it a little bit on the post-game show with you. The thing that I really like about them, they can go small if they need to. They can go big if they need to. Umar Ballo, leader of men, is an awesome player, but there's certain matchups where he's just going to get killed. In the pick and roll, he's going to have some issues.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up. Now, whether it was because they were not exploiting Ballo and Krivas enough from the perimeter with their big, why am I forgetting his name? One of the best players in the country for Dayton.
Deron Holmes from Phoenix, from your neck.
I know. I don't know why. I just had a brain fart. Anyway, Deron Holmes, I thought, did not take advantage of the perimeter nearly as much as I thought he was going to, especially after he hit that first three in the first half. I thought he was going to start getting going. Listen, I did not think that Ballo and Krivas were nearly as inept guarding the perimeter as everybody was making it out to be. I thought that they played a very good game. Especially Krivas coming off the bench. I do want to give him some love. I thought he held up very good against Holmes. And Ballo, listen, he's going to be outmatched to a certain degree just from the perimeter in a skill set standpoint or speed standpoint. But I thought he held up very well. And every time Holmes got close to the basket, it was just a flurry of hands going at him that it was hard for him to really get into a good groove. And that's why he only ended up with 20 points. I felt like he could have had 30 if he was in a nice little groove, but it's because of the activity on defense as a whole, not just the bigs, as a whole, that really did a number. And you got to give Tommy some credit too. To have the balls to have KJ Lewis or Jaden Bradley front the post.
Yeah. Right.
And Dayton couldn't take advantage of it. I think they only took advantage of it like once or twice. But I mean, that is some big huevos right there to be able to pull that off. And it worked.
And he generally got away with it, especially KJ Lewis. Now, a couple times there were some clear fouls, which, again, when you're 6'4", you're going against a 6'8" guy, but generally got away with it though.
He did. Yeah. And I thought, obviously we'll get to the officiating. I mean, I thought that was bizarre because, 1 minute it was they were calling everything, and then the next minute they were calling nothing. Actually, it was kind of the reverse. But yeah, I mean, look,
man, it was the reverse. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, look, Arizona set the energy to Saul's point defensively. It was everybody. It was a collective effort, and I think it really gives you optimism for what's next because obviously Boswell had a really bad game. Caleb Love, well, he hit some clutch shots. He didn't certainly have his best game there in the second half. Ballo at times, as we talked about, had issues from a matchup standpoint. You had to pull him and Katie your lineup, and Arizona still found a way to overcome all of that. And, we've talked about it throughout the year where they've struggled in certain matchups where things have gone wrong, whether it was poor defense on the perimeter or Ballo not matching up very well or poor play from Boswell. And it seemed like in those games when you would have maybe one or even two of those things go wrong for you, things would get ugly for Arizona. And that wasn't the case today. I mean, they were locked in, they were focused. They weren't scared, and they overcame a lot, which has got to give you a lot of optimism because I don't think there's a lot of teams in the country that can win a game like this and have these challenges the way Arizona does. They just are so versatile, and they have so many different options and guys they can go to, and that's the nice thing about this team.
Can I push back just a little bit? And I'm not trying to go at you, Ben, but I wouldn't say Boswell had a bad game. I think he just was non-existent. And he didn't have like a good game to really contribute to the win. But I don't think it was necessarily bad. Like he didn't have a flurry of turnovers. He didn't play poor defense. I just think he just was not a factor.
I think that's the problem.
I thought he lacked a little confidence. But yeah, to your point, like he wasn't bad defensively,
for sure.
Right?
And you're right, Mike. That is part of the problem. Like if we're going to win a national championship, Boswell can't play like that, especially in the next two games. Like if we want to get to a Final Four, he's got to snap out of it. And whatever he was drinking before the Long Beach State game, he better drink it again going into either Baylor or Clemson.
Saul Bookman, you were a shooter in high school, a very good free throw shooter. We've never mentioned this before. But here's where I'm at with Boswell. If you got the open three, you got to shoot it. You might miss it. Cool. I get it. But I can't have you not shooting wide open threes. If you're open, take it, and we'll deal with it from there. I think it's when you start looking, and I don't have to defend you because, again, I don't have to obviously defend like Umar Ballo out on the perimeter. If you got the open shot, take it. You made enough shots this year, and we'll deal with it from there. That's where I'm at. I need you to shoot the open shot. Period.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. KB Thiel in the chat says his defense was awful. He got lost left and right and caused us to have so many bad matchups because of it. Well, at the beginning, if you look at the first half, the way they were trying to defend guys coming off the screen, they were trying to trail. But the problem is every time they tried to trail them, they were able to get extra separation and get those threes off. And so they adjusted a little bit, played a little bit higher off the pick and roll, and caused them to be pushed out. They did it towards the end of the first half as well, but I didn't think it was really awful what Boswell did. And then obviously overall, I'm really impressed by this team defensively and how they were able to hang in there.
Can we address the elephant in the room here, fellas? Circle K. When was the last time that both of you went to Circle K? Ben, you're in California. Saul Bookman, you're in Phoenix. Let's be honest here. Come clean. When was the last time you both went to Circle K?
This morning.
You went to Circle K this morning. By the way, we have Kyle Dodd is tweeting out pictures of Circle K getting their like an egg omelet. KB Thiel got one today too. Back the K.
Go, baby.
Ben White, when did you last go to Circle K? Be honest. Don't lie to us.
I think Thursday morning I did to get a little coffee. Yeah.
All right. We like it. Either way, join the inner circle for free. Be like Saul Bookman and Ben White. Download the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Also, did I ever tell you about this? Empire Flooring. My parents actually utilized Empire Flooring, and we saw an Empire Flooring truck right by Brugger's Bagels the other day.
Ooh,
very
Brugger's.
good stuff. Dude, very good stuff. I don't know what I was more excited by, the Brugger's Bagels or the Empire Flooring, Saul Bookman. It was very, very exciting. Either way, check it out, Empire Flooring. You will thank me later on this. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code PHNX. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/PHNX for details. Saul Bookman has a beautiful house. I've seen it. I noticed the flooring, and I came away immediately thinking that must have been Empire Flooring.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, let's be honest here. So now that we got those two elephants in the room out of the way, let's move forward. Keshad Johnson. Arizona did not have anybody like him last year. As good as Azuolas Tubelis was, and he was very, very good. Keshad Johnson, talk about a junkyard dog. And I mean that. Remember Jerome Williams back at Georgetown, Saul Bookman from like the mid-90s? You just get dunks, you get rebounds, you just set the tempo. Man, he came out in that second half when he made the three, which was really big, and then he had the reverse dunk. Yes, please sign me up for two.
Oh, 1,000,000%. Again, like we talk about in these games, when teams get on runs, you need to get a bucket to kind of slow the tide. Even if it's not going to stop the run, you just need to make sure that those 10-0 runs become 10-4 runs, or those 14-0 runs become 14-6 runs, right? And not let it get out of hand. And Keshad in the first half, I thought he gave them big time buckets to kind of keep the momentum going in our favor. And then the second half, really at the beginning of the second half, that reverse dunk, I just thought was just fantastic. And he gave him buckets. I'm sure we're going to get to the press here in a second, but Keshad is just phenomenal. And you talked about Jaden Bradley getting his hands all over the place. Keshad's no different. His hands are very active. He plays phenomenal defense on the perimeter and down low. I love his entire game, have all season. So glad we got him. And listen, that championship experience, getting to the national championship, that Final Four experience, it mattered today, 1,000,000%.
You know what? The Keshad Johnson bet is also a great recruiting tool for Tommy Lloyd. Because listen, Keshad Johnson was a 7-4 guy at San Diego State. Nothing wrong with that. San Diego State's different. But Tommy Lloyd said, I'm going to let you shoot some threes. I'm going to give you a little bit more ability to show yourself. The dude's turned out to be a pretty decent three-point shooter, and he's kind of a backbone as opposed to just kind of being another guy at San Diego State. Yes, please sign me up for two.
Well, yeah, and I think to your point on the shooting, right? I mean, he keeps at least teams honest, where his entire career, that wasn't the case when it came to shooting three. But I mean, look, they don't win this game without him today. I mean, I thought he set the energy. He was getting to the rim. They really didn't have much of an answer for him. And even when they were fronting him, he was still finding a way to score points and get to the basket. And how many times have we talked about how, this can be your X factor? Because if this guy just gives you, 10 to 15 and 7 to 8 rebounds a game, it's going to go a long way for Arizona, because it takes the burden off some of these other guys and some of these other guards where you're going to get some input from him offensively, and it just makes the whole team better. I think he's tremendous. And, to your point about the recruiting, right? Not only him, but Caleb Love. Talk about two players that had a pretty set in stone MO before coming to Arizona. Caleb Love is playing very efficient. He's proven that he can do a lot more than just be a three-point shooter. And Johnson, the same thing, right? He's more than just that forward who can be a presence on the defensive end. He can do a number of different things. And, it keeps Tommy Lloyd looking good at this point, because how many times have we talked about players, from their starting point to where they finish with Arizona, they become significantly better, Mike. And that's not something we've been able to talk about for quite a while around this school until Tommy Lloyd came along.
Real quick, to that point too, KB makes a phenomenal point.
No, he doesn't.
He says Keshad is going to be an awesome recruiting tool for Tommy for all players in the portal going forward. He was never a shooter or scorer at San Diego State, which is absolutely true. Yep. He's game changing at times. He's got the perimeter jump shot. He's got the drive to the basket. He plays phenomenal defense. And you can point to Tommy in terms of the development on the offensive side of the ball, because defensively, everybody at San Diego State plays solid defense. Right. Let's be honest about it. That's the reason why they got to the national championship. But to improve that side of your stock to get to the NBA, I mean, hell, what else can you do? That's a perfect recruiting tool. Shout out to KB for that one.
We had Jack Murphy on the show earlier in the year. Jack Murphy, that guy, what does he know? And he told me, he said, Mike, I'm telling you, and he's told me this off record, this dude's going to be in the NBA. I didn't see it. I told him, I said, I don't see it. And he said, listen, man, he says, if he's not in the NBA, you'll get another back the A slogan from me. And I said, what happens if he is? He says, you just have to admit I was right. Well, Jack, I have not forgotten about that. But either way, he's a difference maker. And like I said, it's a great, great recruiting tool. Also, we need to get to the press here. But first, Saul Bookman, have you won the Arizona lottery before? Be honest. Don't be humble if you have.
Listen, if I ever won the Arizona lottery, I'm not saying nobody would know, but there would be signs.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say you got Lute Olson right behind you. That's the lottery itself.
Yeah, shout out to Lute.
All right, guys, going to say, well, either way, Saul Bookman is just being humble. I believe Saul Bookman has won the Arizona lottery. I have not yet. But either way, the Arizona lottery is not just about playing games and winning prizes. It's like Saul Bookman, and it's like giving back to the community. It is also about giving back to the state and the community. Visit azadventure.com for more detail, for more information on how you can take an adventure for a chance to win $1 million in cash and prizes. All kinds of good stuff. Check it out, AZ Lottery. I have not won it. Let's talk about the press. I saw you itching to talk about that, Saul. What do you got?
Listen, man, the last 4 minutes of the first half, when they intensified the pressure on the press, and Arizona was kind of falling apart on it. They weren't ready for it. They weren't handling it very well. In the second half, because the only way to beat a press is to be aggressive against the press. And so in the second half, when they tried to do that stuff again, you saw Arizona, like, even though they were scoring, and I said these runs, right? You gotta score while they're also scoring, and make sure that their 10-0 runs turn to 10-4 runs. That's exactly what Arizona was doing. 7-point game at the half, and then it fluctuated between 4 to 8 points, because every time Dayton scored and tried to press, we attacked them right away and got easy buckets and layups at the other end. You got to do that every time. I think Arizona learned a lot of things today, especially if teams are going to try and press a lot against us. You can't do it because we have too many ball handlers and too many athletic dudes. And if they play aggressive, and this is the thing, you got to play aggressive against the press. This is not time for the little kids to show up. This is a grown man's game in these opportunities. You got to go. Don't be hesitant. Teams lose when they get hesitant. Nevada lost because they got hesitant and they played too conservative. Arizona did not, and they won the game.
And what I can't have happen either is we're not in the 890s. I can't have the Mark Jackson back down butt dribble where you just try to back it down like 30 feet and then get in there. Saul Bookman makes a very good point, Ben. They were attacking, and Jaden Bradley, whether it was through the middle of the court or whether it was up the sideline multiple times, he was able to beat it and he was able to get into the paint. The other thing about Bradley that is very underrated, I believe, his ability to finish for a guard is next level stuff. He's generally either getting fouled or he's making it. But either way, back to the press break. Very good job, Jaden Bradley, and to the rest of the team. Ben White, you're up.
Yeah, and look, this team played like they were down, or it was a possession game the entire game for the most part, outside of that second half stretch. And I think that's huge. And look, when you get into the round of 32 and beyond, to Saul's point earlier, you're not going to beat teams by 20, 30. It's hard, man. It's hard. But at the same time, you have to have the understanding that, there's no letting up. Like, this is March. Everything matters. And I think when you got guys like Love, like Keshad Johnson, who have been there before and understand what this moment means, I mean, it goes a long way. And yeah, like, did Dayton try to press? Absolutely. But, to the point earlier, you've got too many guys who can get into the lane. You've got too many guys who can make outside shots. And I think that they were just uncomfortable from the get-go, because the way they were going to beat Arizona was from three. They don't do a whole lot of other things well. They don't rebound. Defensively, they try to do things, but it traditionally hasn't worked out for them. And you were hoping that Arizona would beat themselves. And there was a little stretch where they did, but for the most part, they didn't beat themselves. They stayed in this game. They stayed focused, and you got to feel good about what's next. And really what you've seen from Jaden Bradley, Mike, because, we've talked about the struggles with Boswell and, what's next. And, Bradley is kind of peaking at the right time. And, we've had different guys come across the bench over the years and contribute at different times when need be. But, Bradley, I think, is going to be a big reason as to what happens to this team next week, if they lose or if they go far. I think you got to ride the hot hand at this point.
We got to talk Pelle Larsson as well. Pelle Larsson, I've made fun of Pelle Larsson's dribbling for 3 years here at the U of A. Very good player, not a great dribbler. Pelle Larsson had some huge shots today. And you talk about the stat sheet stuffer, Saul Bookman. 13 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. He was all over, and he made 2 huge shots from the corner 3 and then the one at the top of the key. That one was huge. Pelle Larsson, salute emoji, my friend.
Yeah, that one at the top of the key to take it from 9 to 12 was huge. That was huge, because I felt like that was kind of the nail in the coffin.
I agree.
Personally, because you could see a scenario where Dayton, if we miss that shot, Dayton comes down, and then all of a sudden everybody starts to get a little tighter. But I thought, Pelle was fantastic on both ends. I know everybody's kind of on him about the free throws, like, hey, what's going on here with the free throws? But again, like, I'll swap out those free throws for those big time threes any day. And I'm sure he'll fix it. He has a tendency every now and then when he releases the ball to get too much height on the ball, and that's why I think he missed.
Saul Bookman, your free throw, you should have a very high standard for free throws. Let's be honest, Saul Bookman. Okay. Now, it's also time for the Desert Financial Credit Union by the numbers. This is where we see things on paper from the great Eric Ruby. All right. Desert Financial Credit Union, presented by Desert Financial Credit Union, Arizona's #1 credit union, named by Forbes, all kinds of good stuff. Now, here's where we're at. 52.8 to 40%, 7 out of 24. That to me is really the key in this game. This was where I was really worried about Arizona and this matchup with Dayton, is that Dayton's one of the top 5 3-point shooting teams in the country. We probably haven't given this enough due, or I haven't given this enough due, but Arizona was able to run Dayton off of that 3-point line. They did not get the looks that I think a lot of people were worried that we were going to see from, say, a San Diego State, or, a San Diego State, from that we saw earlier in the year for Stanford, Oregon State, etc. They did a really good job, and you could tell that was a concerted effort by the Tommy Lloyd there, guys.
Well, too, I mean, we've talked about Arizona, and, as good as they are defensively, I mean, the one issue that we've seen throughout the year is perimeter defense. And, I thought the guards really took it to heart early, because Dayton didn't get a lot of good looks. And, that was really the theme for most of that game, outside of a little stretch there in the second half. I mean, our guards were locked in, making sure that whoever had the ball for Dayton, it was not going to be a clean look. And Holmes was really the only option for them offensively. And, at the same time, you've got enough size up front to front that. And, the way it was being officiated, you kind of just put your head down and made contact every time. And, if you fouled him, you fouled him. And I think that was Arizona's game plan. They were locked in. And they knew from the get-go that, if Dayton was going to find a way to win or at least be in this game, it was going to start from the perimeter. And I think that was very clear early on.
Saul?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I think the 3-point line was the key to this game. Arizona was able to hold them off of the 3-point line. Even at the end of the game, you saw them. Arizona was like, I don't care how many twos you make. You're just not going to make any threes. And listen, like, I know everybody's, in the first half, they hit 6 threes, 7 threes. Brea hit 2 that were like from like the hash mark. You know what I mean? Like, that's not bad defense. Like, hey, give the guy credit for hitting a 40-foot jump shot. Like, okay, cool. But that's a good shot for Arizona. Like, that's okay. You can live with that. And I thought their perimeter defense was outstanding. Listen, they focused on that perimeter defense because that's how they get the juices flowing. That's how they get the momentum on their side. And the fact that Arizona was able to limit them to that few of threes is fantastic. And only 2 in the second half. Amazing.
Yeah.
And that's what I was worried about. Again, the thing about this Dayton matchup that worried me is that Dayton is one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country. Arizona is not traditionally a good 3-point defensive team. They also play slow. That gets Arizona frustrated at times, and they got a star in Deron Holmes. Arizona checked off all of those boxes. It's almost like Tommy Lloyd is the winningest coach in college basketball history through his first couple of years, and he decided, you know what, we're going to throw them off, and we're going to attack their weaknesses like a Bill Belichick-led defense there, Ben White.
Yeah. And look, you got to ride it hot because, if you're looking at this potential matchup next weekend, we'll see what happens between Clemson and Baylor tomorrow. But, Baylor's another team that shoots a lot of threes too. So you better have a similar game plan. You better be locked in. And defensively, I think, this team has to play like this game after game. And, they've shown that they have. I mean, even in the Pac-12 tournament, I know they lost to Oregon, but I thought defensively there was just another level that they took it up to. And if this team plays this way and they get these contributions from the bench, I mean, it's a very difficult team to play because, as we talked about, there's a number of different guys, a number of different ways you can go about things. And a lot of teams throughout the country don't have that luxury, right? And you want to be peaking at the right time. You want to be locked in. You've got the gorilla off your back, right? You made it out of the first weekend. And now it's time where, we really focus and, we continue to be locked in. And that moving forward, it's all business at this point. And defensively, Arizona is one of the best teams in the country, and it's got to continue that way.
Saul, did you notice the Phoenix Suns reference, the gorilla off the back? Did you get that?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I got that.
It was funny.
Jeez.
It was funny. All right.
Okay.
But also, we got to give the Pac-12 a little bit of a shout out here. Let's be honest here. The Pac-12 is 6-0 now in the NCAA tournament. I heard a great point about the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is generally kind of outperforms when the postseason comes. Here's why. Because a lot of these other teams are already established. The Pac-12 teams generally have some coaches that don't really care about stuff. But when the teams get into the tournament, the talent rises to the top. Keep in mind, just a couple years ago, 3 Pac-12 teams in the Elite 8. This is the swan song for the Pac-12. We will back the West Coast. We will back the West Side, Saul.
Yeah, talk is cheap though. But we need a Pac-12 team to win the national championship. We need to win the national championship. It hasn't happened west of the Mississippi since 1997. So, I mean, we got to break through at some point. So, listen, I thought Colorado played a phenomenal game yesterday against Florida. I am not a believer in Colorado. I hate Colorado. I hate everything about Colorado.
You like Colorado?
I will always hate everything about Colorado. Colorado is like right up there with ASU, in my opinion, in terms of the teams that I hate the most. I like Prime. I don't like Colorado. Let's get that right there, Mr. Duke. So listen, I thought that every team in the Pac-12 played really, really solid. Oregon played phenomenal. I think Oregon wins today. I think Washington State pulls the upset as well. I'm confident in those two teams. I don't think Colorado's gonna get past this next round though.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Ben. I see you disagreeing with Saul Bookman.
No, I'm agreeing 100%. There's no way they're beating Marquette.
Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the matchups. Clemson or Baylor, I don't care. Here's where I'm still at with this. When Arizona plays its best basketball, when it plays at its peak, I don't care. The only team that I believe has the upside that Arizona does when Arizona is clicking on all cylinders is UConn. That's the only team. If you lose to Clemson in the Sweet 16, well, then you know what? It happens. You lose to Baylor, then maybe you just didn't deserve to be there. I don't care about the matchup nearly as much as I care about Arizona, Saul Bookman.
1,000,000%. Like everybody's talking about the matchup, Clemson or Baylor. Like I don't need to play our game. We are the best. We are one of the best teams in the country. We are better than Clemson and Baylor. So if we come out and we establish ourselves and play our game, which they did today, then we're going to be just fine and we should win that game. And so I'm excited to see what's going to happen next weekend in LA. Listen, California has not been great to us of late, especially in the last decade. We've gone to California a million times, and every single time I feel broken. Hopefully this time is we can break that streak because we deserve to go to the Final Four, damn it. It's been 23 years.
We do deserve the Final Four. You know what we also deserve? Desert Financial Credit Union. Let's talk about Desert Financial Credit Union. Here's the deal. It's also a great part of the people. PHNX Sports is kind of that grassroots fan movement here where you can get on and hop on with us, and the fans are generally smarter than we are, so that's why we rely on it. Desert Financial Credit Union is here to help you as well. When you open a free checking account online, you can get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200. Saul Bookman, you have many good things to say about Desert Financial Credit Union. This is true.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I love their banking. You can get $200 if you just open up a checking account. So I opened up 3 of them for my kids.
I don't blame it. You know what? I don't have kids yet, but I'm going to already start thinking about opening them up at the Desert Financial Credit Union. That would be the only spot. So again, check it out. DFCU. All right. Now let's get back to a little bit of Arizona.
Real quick, Mike, I gotta say this real quick. I thought the Arizona's performance today was a perfect example of how you bear the fuck down, baby. Let's go.
Very
Put
good.
the shirt up, Eric.
Shirt.
Go get that stuff in the locker, baby.
All right, let's talk about where you can find those shirts. Jacob Franklin, pull this shirt up, please. I see Jacob Franklin back there. Pull the shirt up. Let's see it. All right.
There it is.
How sexy is this? Let's be honest, man. Seriously, this is a showstopper wherever you go. Saul, where could they possibly find this?
You just go to gophnx.com or go to phnxlocker.com and you can find this beautiful baby. When you sign up and become a diehard, you can get the shirt for free or you can pay for it straight out of your own pocket. Whichever one, we appreciate it. So get that shirt and wear it to LA because Mike and I will see you in LA and probably Ben too.
We will. By the way, did I tell you about so Ben and I were getting dinner with the GOAT on Saturday, Brian Jeffries, and a guy came up asking for a picture with me. Weirdo. But he did have a BTFD shirt on.
He did.
And,
yep.
Again, was awesome. Gave him one of the cool daps and everything, but he had the BTFD shirt on. These things are going like hotcakes. Get in there right now as you can get one. All right, now moving ahead, you made a point too, Saul. Arizona doesn't have great luck in LA of late, but you got to break the streak at some point. That's kind of where I'm at with this. I think it's still a good thing. Arizona's the favorite to come out of the West. They're the betting favorite. Go on BetMGM and look at that, by the way. But guys, listen, Arizona should have a good fan base there. We're all three going to be there. So if we're all three going to be there, everybody out there needs to be there. What do you guys think?
1,000,000%. Like, listen, man, we need to come in full force. I have a feeling that Tommy's going to have these boys ready to go. I really do. I thought that he had them ready to go today. I thought they came out and they played very solid in that first half. And yeah, they kind of tripped up over themselves in the last 4 minutes, but they held it together in the first 8 minutes of the second half. And we all talked about it at halftime. This first 3 or 4 minutes is really going to dictate the game. And there wasn't really much movement until about the 12-minute mark. And then Arizona got going, and then they pushed that lead up, and then Dayton couldn't recover. So you got to come out with that kind of effort, that enthusiasm, and understand like the moment that's in front of you is not a moment to be scared of. It's a moment to embrace. And if you get to LA and you have an opportunity to get to the Final Four, and the Final Four is here in Arizona, you know what's at stake. I've been in the arena when we were at a Sweet 16 with a chance to go to Arizona, and we were up by 8, and it didn't work out. This time, I just don't feel like that's going to happen. I do want to say also, Tommy at halftime said, I think we've played very well. Yeah, that last stretch wasn't great, but I have confidence that my guys are going to be okay. If they lose this game, people were like, oh, he didn't take the moment seriously, or he didn't understand, or he wasn't hard enough on the guys. But I do think because of the guys like Caleb Love and Keshad Johnson that you have on this team, Pelle Larsson to Abalo, you have experience. You don't need to overreact and panic in that locker room because these guys know what's at stake. They don't need to be told. So your calmness and just making sure everybody stays matter of fact, hey, we're doing the things we need to do to win this game, needs to be respected and saluted, because I just love the fact that he was calm and collected in that moment.
Jordan, you did ask me for a picture. This is very true. I actually had a lot of people that asked me for pictures. And get a load of this, Saul. I was asked for an autograph. I have never been asked for an autograph in my life. Here's what I put. Michael A. Luke, number 3, my high school jersey. I thought that was pretty cool.
Did you sign a Del Taco wrapper? Or?
I did not sign a Del Taco wrapper. It was actually
that's what I want. I want a burrito with a Mike Luke autograph on it.
No, it was just like my loose sleeves chicken scratch. Ben saw much of this.
We did have people messaging us though, asking when we're all going to be meeting up at Del Taco. So that did happen.
A Del Taco meetup would be absolutely amazing. I can't even imagine. But Ben, to Saul's point though, this you got to make it happen. Jody Ayler made this point to me. He said, Arizona fans, he says, I think get kind of caught up in we always have next year. We always have next year. And he says, yes, you do have next year, but this is the year that you need to do it. He says, you haven't been to the Final Four in 23 years. Coming up, I thought that basically we got to the Final Four every 4 years. I thought it was a rite of passage. 23 years hasn't been, it's been 23 years. Enough about next year. I mean, that's good for the offseason that we can talk about all of that. This is about this year, spiking the football down, planting the flag.
And there's no reason why that can't be the case. We've talked about this team, how good they are when they play at this level. There's not really a team in the country that scares me per se, and I think you're in a good spot to be where you can honestly look yourself in the face and say, we are our biggest enemy, meaning there's nobody else that we really worry about unless, we're playing a tough game. But as long as we take care of the ball, we're locked in, we worry about ourselves, Arizona's going to be in a good spot. And you look at the way the bracket shakes out, Clemson or Baylor, I don't really care, right? But you've got a pretty good path here. And I think you've done some of the hardest parts and you've got the guys locked in. And again, you talk about some of the issues and maybe some of the challenges you saw today between maybe Boswell not shooting the best or lacking confidence. Caleb Love had a great game in that first half, but the shooting kind of wandered off a little bit in the second half. And Arizona had its challenges, but they still won. They still found a way to dominate this game. They were cool, calm, and collected the entire 40 minutes. And that's what you want to see at this point, because, we've talked about Arizona teams in the past where maybe you lack that dog or you get a little bit rattled. You don't know who's going to take that shot. I think Arizona's got a lot of guys here, Mike, that they want it. They're hungry, and you can tell this team is locked in. You can tell they care, and you can tell this means something to them. And why not us? It's in Phoenix this year. We got to make it happen.
Saul, do you want to address Tony Clifton's question?
I'd be more than happy to. If Balo ever wants to reach out and say, hey, man, teach me the game, I got you.
We're asking you, Saul.
I would love to.
Okay, so when you watch Ballo shoot free throws, what would you correct, Saul Bookman?
I would just correct his smoothness. Really, he has a hitch in his free throw shot that I'm not a big fan of. But even though he has the hitch, he has gotten better about the release, and it's a little smoother, and you can tell when it's about to go in just because of the way it comes off of his hand. But there's a few things that could be tweaked. I think it would work.
All right, I got a prediction for the. I know I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth, but I specialize in that. I do care who we play. I'm just going to say this. I think Michigan State's going to beat North Carolina today. I believe that you are going to look at Michigan State beating North Carolina. You can say what that would mean for anybody. The line is going down. You should go on the BetMGM Sportsbook app. It's at 3.5. The last 5 out of 7 times, get a load of this. 5 out of 7 times that a seed over 7 has played a 1 seed that has been within 4 points, they have won that game outright. I think we could see a little bit of Izzo magic here, fellas. What say you?
Let's do it. They're the one team you crap on the Big Ten a lot, but they're the one team you can't doubt there, Mike Luke, every year.
Yeah, I'm going to still crap on the Big Ten. Do you like that as well, Saul?
Honestly,
you don't. I can see it. You don't.
Well, listen, man, Michigan State is just tough. And we saw it firsthand in Palm Springs. They played us tough back then. Izzo in the tournament is tough. So I'm not really pulling for Michigan State. I'm just kind of watching as a casual observer. I think either team is gonna be a challenge, but I would not be surprised if Michigan State pulled off the upset today at all.
What's also fascinating too, and you see this very rarely. I got another stat for you. In the last 10 years, there's only been 4 number 2 or non-number 1 seeds that have been favored to come out of their region before the tournament started. Guess what? 2 of those 3 made the Final Four. Guess who that 4th one was? It is a TBA, Arizona, the betting favorite to come out of the West before. I'm just trying to give as much good juju as we can, guys. Ben, I thought that was a really good stat that I found. Actually, I didn't find it. Somebody sent it to me, but I will claim credit.
Yeah, let's be honest, Mike. Luke doesn't know how to find his own stats, but no, that is very cool.
Ben is basically seen my technological experience for the last 10 years.
As has Saul. He's well aware too.
He's not impressed, but
it's a little deficient for sure.
It's a little sketchy. It's a little sketchy from time to time. All right, one other player too that we got to give a lot of credit to, and somebody that I think totally was missed on the recruiting evals, and I've been giving people crap about this for years. KJ Lewis. You watch KJ Lewis. That is what an eventual starting NBA shooting guard looks like. I've been on this all season. It is baffling to me, absolutely baffling, that all the recruiting experts could have watched this guy and said, it looks like a fringe top 100 player, kind of a high 3-star type kid. No, that's what a 5-star kid looks like. And he is a game changer when Arizona brings him off the bench. He is fantastic. I love him. I wish he would play him even more.
He's a Tony Allen type. He's not a tremendous shooter. He's a scorer, but defensively, he's as good as it gets. I think the biggest growth, you see the biggest growth from your freshman to your sophomore year, because you realize what the game is offering and how much you have to improve and what you need to do to your game to improve. And he's going to take that into next season, because I don't think he's ready for the NBA quite yet. He needs to work on that offensive side. He needs to be a lot more consistent from the perimeter to show that he is a legit 2, because you don't want to be KJ Lewis right now with the sets that he has on offense, because you're kind of playing between that 2 and 3, kind of like a Raleigh Alkins, because he's definitely not a 1, right? So you gotta make sure that in the offseason you're working on that jumper. The scoring ability, I think, is there. The athletic ability is there. The defensive acumen is there. He gets a little handsy on defense from time to time. You saw that today. He was trying to he hooked Holmes a couple times, but that's the thing in the offseason is I got to work on my game. The offensive move skill sets got to improve. And they relied upon next year, especially in the beginning of the season when you have these freshmen come in who are stars, but they also need a little time to go as well. So early on.
Saul, you're coming in kind of choppy. You know what? You should have fiber internet like myself, so you don't have to worry about any of that. Fiber.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Oh, by the way, check it out. Got a super snap coming in here. My wife wants to thank PHNX for the great info. AZ Cats G, thank you for the super snap. We appreciate that. Oh, I had another super snap earlier, by the way. Sorry, hold on. H Fuchs. Hold on. Bear down, Mike Luke. Appreciate it, guys. Appreciate you. All right. Arizona women's basketball is on right now, by the way. What do we have a score on this by anybody? Erica, if you have a score, let us know. It sounds like they're playing well. Saul, what do you think about the women's basketball team? That was a nice little win they had earlier.
Man, listen, man. Every time I'm like, I don't know how they're going to do in the tournament. They might struggle. They always surprise me. They surprised me when they got to the national championship. The other night, they played phenomenal. I mean, Jaden Williams is just awesome. She's just awesome, and she's the one that really kind of kept the pace for them the other day. So, Syracuse is no slouch. They're a tough team. They're a pretty good program. So we'll see how it goes tonight.
Let's see, Cassandra.
13-5. Arizona's leading right now. So great start.
Cassandra, you should come to LA, and I will gladly take a picture with Keshad Johnson's sister. Would be my. I'm not as tall as you might think, though, when you see me up close. So we will put it like that. All right, now one thing, Deron Holmes in Arizona. That was kind of an interesting matchup for me. I wanted to get that a little bit earlier. He's an All-American. He's one of the top 10 players in the country. It was fascinating to see how Arizona wanted to really cover him because, obviously, he's big. He's a big dude, but Arizona would just kind of pushed him, wore him down. Saul, by the way, you're totally clear now. What did you just do?
I don't know. I guess my T-Mobile internet finally kicked in.
There you go. There you go. Maybe you're on a hot spot. All right. But you're going to find a player like that. And we've seen players like that can go. But the thing is, Arizona, like you said, Arizona held him to 24 points. They didn't let him get 35 points. They didn't let him get 38 points. Those are the times when Arizona loses games where you're like, okay, well, here goes another guy that's going to go for 35. Arizona did a very good job on that, I thought, fellas.
Yeah, I think the thing with him, right? I mean, there were two things, right? I think defensively, what you were looking to do was control the boards, which Arizona did, and don't let Dayton beat you from the outside. If Holmes gets 25, even if he gets 28, 29, you're probably still going to be okay. But, I thought that they rose to the occasion, and I was pleasantly surprised, especially with Ballo not out there a lot of the times, just from a matchup standpoint, that's tough. And Arizona did go smaller with that athletic lineup for a while, and I thought that worked out well for them. And he's no joke. Holmes is really good. And, it's nice to see that Arizona found a way to not make him as relevant as he could have been, because, I mean, he's a guy, to your point, that can go off. He's physical. He can get to the lane at will and really put up a lot of points. And, despite the 23, you have 4 guys for Dayton in double figures today. That's another thing I think that gets a little bit overlooked. And Arizona still won by 10. So I thought they did a good job from the perimeter, and rebounding is really where it started. But perimeter defense, I think, is really more why we're here having this conversation, because you knew Holmes was going to go off. It's hard to stop a guy like that, but you just got to control everybody else. And that's what they did.
So
listen, he was a 4-star recruit. I just looked this up because I was like, wait, there's no way.
Millennium.
Because locally, Millennium, but he also went to Montverde Academy, and that's the exposure that he got, right?
Right.
And listen, he was 6'8" and 180 pounds. He had a long way to go. And sometimes you go to these smaller programs because you have more time to play, you have more time to grow. And at the time, Sean Miller was the head coach here. And
I'm not going to beat up Arizona for this, but these are the kind of guys, and I was telling Kyle Dodd this, these are guys the ASU can't miss on. You cannot be losing kids in Phoenix to Dayton. I don't care. I know your NIL sucks. All of that, don't care. You should not be losing kids to Dayton. It doesn't matter to me. Listen, maybe every now and then you're going to lose a Saban Lee to Vanderbilt or some weird school because like they got good academics. I get all that. You can't be losing Deron Holmes to Dayton under any circumstances. It just can't happen. Now, one thing though, Saul, let me ask you this. When you watch the NCAA tournament, you're off the clock watching everything.
Also, he did take an unofficial visit to Arizona, just so we know.
There you go. Saul, do you consume OGs though? When you're watching the games and you're like, dude, listen, man, I got to watch it. Let's talk about
when Saul knows he's got a show to do with Mike Luke at the end of the game. Of course, he's taking OGs.
OGs before the show. I don't blame you.
No. I don't. I try not to take OGs before the show. I've done that once or twice on the Sun show. It didn't work out that great. So it's like I was having an out of body experience watching myself do the show, and I did not like it. So I tend to do it after the show. I probably should have taken one before the games because I was so anxious. OGs, the best edible in the game. Go to any dispensary and you're going to find it just damn near sold out everywhere. It's made in Tucson, by the way. If you didn't know that, the factory is down there in Tucson. They do a tremendous job.
Support local.
The sativas, yes. Support local. You have the sativas, the indicas, the Happy Balance. They have a new vegan gummy that comes in 100 milligram bite with slices of 10 milligrams each. Like, you can't go wrong. ogsbrands.com. Check them out online. Find your closest dispensary. And remember, you must be over the age of 21 to enjoy.
To learn more about OG's gummies and where you can find them, head over to ogsbrands.com.
I just said that, Mike.
Did you say the website part?
Yes, I literally did. I've done the OGs read so many times. It's
Hey, I'm fluent in OGs. Can you do prize picks for me as well?
No, it's all you, buddy.
Oh no, come on, man. Dude, now you got me on the spot. All right, prize picks. I've actually done prize picks before. It's actually kind of a cool thing. So here's the deal. Let's say that you've got an idea about a player or somebody, and you're like, I think he's going to go off for a little bit more. That's where Prize Picks comes into play. Football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up. Whether it's tournament season or the fight for a playoff home court, there's no shortage of high basketball moments this year. Get in on the excitement of Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. Again, this is where you want to be. All kinds of good stuff. And let's see here. What else do we got here? All kinds. You can also win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Get that Saul Bookman money going for you with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today at Prize Picks. Again, America's #1 fantasy sportsbook app. Okay.
Would we be interested in Teron Holmes as a transfer?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. He's in an interesting spot because I think with he's in an interesting spot because I don't know that he's a great NBA prospect because he's kind of a tweener. He's kind of a Carrick Felix type, a little bit obviously better. I would gladly take him, take the NIL. And this is where I don't understand in this day and age. Why would a player like, let's say Umar Ballo, leader of men, not going to play in the NBA, but love Umar Ballo? Why would you not come back, get a 6-figure deal, NIL, live on campus for another year or live off campus, dominate? I would 1000% come back if I was that. Tell me I'm stupid, guys. I
think you're 100% right. Again, but it requires the player to be a little bit more humble about themselves and get good advice. I think that's where most of the U of A players have gone wrong. I can remember guys like Alonzo Trier and Raleigh Alkins, where I was like, you would definitely benefit for one more year here in school, but instead they went to the league and they both didn't get drafted. So
right.
you have to know yourself and take your advice seriously and understand who's giving you that perspective and where you could possibly go. To me, in today's day and age, if I'm a fringe NBA player, I'm staying and I'm making some more money. Like
right.
1,000,000%. The days of the tradition and the loyalty, those are gone, but they kind of came back when the NIL era came to fruition. So I would stay.
Ben, you're a precocious athlete. Jeff Skurin has talked to me about you playing football for him. Precocious. What would you stay if you were, let's say you were Ben Fafita?
Yeah, look, to Saul's point, right? It's not how it used to be. Like the money is here and the opportunity is here with the portal and the fact that you can just get up and go pretty much anywhere for the most part, right? And I think the other thing you have to keep in mind too is, a program like Arizona, you're going to come in and, you're going to be checked a little bit, right? It's not going to be a situation where you get to come in and do whatever you want and score 25 and not necessarily worry about everybody else. That's not the situation here. I'm not saying one way or the other Holmes, leans that way, but, I think that's something you have to keep in mind. And whether it's Arizona or another program, I'd be shocked if there's not another fit out there for him to go in there and get significantly better the last year, hopefully, and, make some money and win basketball games while doing it. So I think it makes a ton of sense. If I'm Arizona, I would be all over that, of course.
All right, let's wrap this one up. We've done good work. Jaden Bradley to the rescue was absolutely fantastic. From defense to getting after deflections on the defensive side, finishing in the paint, had a big 3 as well. He's kind of that, that ace in the hole. He came in, he changed everything up, and fellas, Arizona is very lucky to have him because there's not many teams in the country that have a player of that caliber coming off the bench.
Listen, man, we have got a solid 1 through 8. And if you have a solid 1 through 8, you can win a national championship, but you have to play at an elite level. I thought today the Wildcats were probably about at 80% of their max potential. I thought they played very well. I thought they played within themselves, and they played their brand of basketball outside of like a 4-minute stretch at the end of the first half. I thought outside of that, I really did feel like Arizona was controlling the game. I think our nerves tell us that they might not have been, but they were. Right. And when you go back and look at the game, afterwards, if you go rewatch the game, you're going to feel a little differently when you watch it. Like, yeah, there wasn't really a point where Arizona was really in danger. So their experience really shined through. Bradley, fantastic off the bench again, and they have a great opportunity ahead of them in LA.
All right, Ben, wrap this one up. What do you got? Make it good.
Yeah, look, Dayton didn't play well. Arizona controlled it from get-go. There was that little stretch, sure, but they owned and they played the style of basketball I think they wanted to play, which is defense first, force turnovers, right? Get in the lane, get shots up. And that's exactly what Arizona did. Granted, the pace was a little bit slower than we're accustomed to seeing, but I think that's a good thing because, come down the line in the tournament, if you go far and you continue to be in it, you're going to face a team that, wants to slow things down. It's a little bit more athletic, a little bit bigger. And I think this team is peaking at the right time. And I'd be challenged, outside of UConn, show me a team 1 through 8 that has the guys that Arizona does in terms of just versatility and guys who can come in and carry a guy who's maybe struggling, right? And that's what Bradley did today. He was the hot hand. I'd love to see more opportunity for him moving forward. I think we will. And, I think this team's peaking and they're in a really good spot. They're locked in. They understand what the moment means. They got 2 guys in Love and Johnson who've been here before. And that's the reason why those 2 guys are here at this school is to win a national title. So things look well for you, right? I mean, in this bracket, in this region, we try not to worry about matchups, but things look good for them and they're locked in. They have every reason to be successful here. And it's just fun. Buckle up, man.
Ben, you made a good point right there when you were talking about, the pace of the game. We heard coming in that Dayton was going to try and slow down the pace, and it worked for about the first 5 to 6 minutes, and then Arizona went on a heater, and then the pace sped up, and it really sped up for the rest of the game because Dayton had no choice but to speed it up because they had to get back into the game. And so, and I think their press, ironically, was kind of fool's gold, because it allowed them to get back into the game at the end of the first half, but it actually ended up being the best thing for Arizona because they were able to play in a stretch 6 minutes in that second half where things were going back and forth, and you didn't feel the pressure of the moment because you're just playing. And I thought that really helped U of A a lot get over whatever hump that might have been coming originally. And again, play your game, right? Arizona played their game today. They sped up Dayton. Dayton was a little erratic. The defense was on lock, and we won by almost double digits. Or we did win by double digits.
Saul, there's no better time to become a PHNX diehard. This is correct.
1,000,000%. Get your diehard membership. Come join us in the Discord. Hang out with Kobe, myself, Mike, Luke. Get your shirt for free. Listen, we have annual subscriptions. It's a nice, easy get. You get a beautiful little package sent to your house. You can get that shirt. You can get the loyalty shirt that we dropped about a month ago. Listen, it's all there for you. This is where all the U of A fans need to start hanging out. We're trying to make it a space for all of us to just talk some good ball about our favorite team.
And we're good. We're not ASU. We're actually good. Good stuff.
Can we talk about the fact that Arizona football, men's basketball, women's basketball, ASU, neither. GCU, men's baskball. And listen, Mike, I don't care how GCU went about doing it because I don't pay attention to that shit because I don't care about it. All I know is how their basketball program.
I don't care how they do it.
Yeah, I don't care about any of that. ASU fans will be like, oh, and they'll stand on their moral high ground, but shut the fuck up. They don't know what the hell they're doing. GCU to me is a top tier program, even though that they're in the Mountain West. And I would wager to say, if they keep going for at least the next 4 or 5 years at the pace that they're going right now, they could be a Gonzaga type school here in the Valley and dominate and take all the recruits away from ASU. And they literally are the second best team in Arizona, and we should be scheduling them every year. And the one thing I love about GCU fans is they love us. We love them because we both hate ASU, and that's a beautiful thing.
You know what's really good about it? I love that somebody said to St. Mary's, hey, St. Mary's, eat lope. I love that phrase, eat lope. I am going to use that from now on. But we are going to sign off tomorrow. I have convinced Jacob Franklin to let me go live again. Jacob Franklin, for as much as we give him grief about being an ASU guy, Jacob Franklin goes above and beyond for me. We thank you, Jacob Franklin, for letting me have an extra show this week. But for the boss, Saul Bookman, for the precocious Ben White, I am merely Mike Luke. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats postgame.
We all silly like the mayor.